Everybody loves cheap electric scooters because they're affordable, they're portable, and they're easy to ride. Plus, they'll pay for themselves in gas money savings if you just ride them to work from time to time. But let's talk about the dark side of cheap electric scooters, like how to not get burned, how to avoid scooters that are unreliable or unsafe, and how to get the performance you need, like hill climbing power or long range for the least amount of cash. I love cheap electric scooters. I've tested over 100 of them. Over 1 million people have watched these 3 cheap scooter videos that I made for Electric Scooter Guide. But how cheap is too cheap? Can you get a good electric scooter for under $600? Yes, but there are also death traps. I'm going to show you how to sort the good ones from the crap. Let's start out with safety, and I'm going to set the bar impossibly low here. You don't want a scooter where the frame's going to break in half while you're riding it and cause an accident. You can't really tell that from a spec sheet. So here your best bet is just stick with good brands like VMAX, New, Okai, Segway, maybe GoTrax. I would mention Apollo here too, except their lowest MSRP is $9.99. The next subject is something you absolutely need, even when you're saving money, and that's good brakes. This test data right here is some independent data from Electric Scooter Guide that you can find from going back and looking at their old reviews. Up on top in last place is the worst scooter ESG ever tested, and down at the bottom in first place happens to be the VMAX VX5 Pro. You can't tell how well an electric scooter is going to stop just by looking at the spec sheet. So go watch lots of electric scooter reviews and see what other people think, but when you can find it, real data is best. If you want to ride safely at night, you need good headlights, and not just in the front, you need a nice bright taillight as well. You'd be surprised. There is a major brand of electric scooters that makes a scooter that has just a reflective strip at the back instead of a taillight. It's not a good place to save money. If you really want the ultimate in lighting safety, go for a scooter that's got bar and turn signals up high where people can see them. You can see them from the front, or you can see them from the back. It's very rare to find a sub $600 electric scooter that has bar and turn signals. Segway makes one, New makes one, and if you want to really narrow the field, try to find a scooter that's got bar and turn signals and another set down on the deck, like the VMAX VX5. So the most important issue with cheap scooters is safety, but the number 2 issue is that some cheap scooters feel awful to ride. I talk about some scooters that vibrate so hard that your vision goes blurry. When it comes to ride quality, here's what to avoid and what to buy. First, this is a hot take, I'll get comments for this, but just don't buy a scooter with solid tires that also has no suspension. It's gonna suck to ride. It just is. Don't do it. If you get solid tires, one of the problems with them is if you do a long skid, you wear a flat spot in the tire, like in one skid. And then for the rest of the time that you own that scooter, it's gonna go womp, 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 womp down the road. There's nothing you can do to fix it except replace the tire. For the best combination of traction, ride quality, and flat resistance, get an electric scooter with air-filled tubeless tires. All of the name brand scooters that I mentioned earlier, they really get ride quality right. They're all really decent to ride, but there's something kind of extra about the ride quality of the VMAX VX5. Maybe it comes from the Swiss design, I don't know. I can't put my finger on any particular part of the scooter that does it, but I just like riding it better than other scooters at this price. And the next subject you need to watch out for on cheap electric scooters is reliability. And this is a huge subject, and it comes from like every part of the scooter. So I'm just gonna sum it up on screen. Check for these reliability features when you're buying a cheap scooter. The next thing that seems really tempting, but it's usually a bad idea, are the no-name electric scooters on Amazon. And the reason is that they essentially come with a 30-day warranty, because once the return period is over, who are you going to reach out to if there's not a brand behind the scooter? For example, if the title of the listing on Amazon is electric scooter for adults or electric scooter 500-watt motor and there's no brand, these are the scooters you want to avoid, because the first time something breaks on that scooter, it's totaled because you can't buy parts for it. Then there are some scooters on Amazon, one from an actual name brand, that are famous for delivering DOA scooters just completely dead on arrival because they sat in a warehouse so long the battery drained to the point where it can never be recharged. Avoiding these is easy. Just read the reviews, and like every third review will be dead on arrival. The final two things on my big list of 5 things to watch out for when buying cheap scooters are both performance related. So number 4, it's range. You know, all cheap scooters have smaller batteries because that's one of the ways that you're saving money. And so it's really critical to pay attention and get a scooter that's got the right amount of range. For example, you know, most cheap scooters also kind of exaggerate on the range. They all quote the range in eco mode, but if you're looking for a scooter that's going to go a real 10 miles, you better find one that's quoting 20 on the spec. The VMAX VX5 Pro GT, on the other hand, has a maximum specified range of 22 miles in eco mode, but I've actually ridden it 19.2 miles in sport mode and with beast mode turned on, and that was on a hilly range test course. So this is coming out really close to its spec in eco mode, even when I'm riding it in sport mode. When it comes to hill climbing, the specs really can help you out. It's becoming more and more common for scooters to have a percent incline climbing spec to tell you, how steep of a hill they can climb. It's fairly common to find, 20%. So look for that 20% or more on a cheap scooter. The VX5 here happens to be 25%. We've seen name brand scooters fail the 10% grade ESG test hill. So definitely watch out for that. Something else you can look for is peak power of more than 750 watts. The VX5 here happens to have 840, and it's a great hill climber. The other thing to look for is rider weight limits. On a lot of cheap scooters, it could be 220 pounds or even less. On the VX5 is 265 pounds, and the higher the number, the better your hill climbing and just the better your overall riding experience if you're close to that number. So let's sum it up. Can you buy a $300 scooter and be happy with it? Some people, for some uses, you can, but you're always going to feel like you're riding a cheap scooter. They just ride a little different. And you definitely want to check those rider weight limits because a lot of them just don't feel like they're made for adult riders. We can't ignore used scooters. I buy all my cars used, so why wouldn't I buy a used scooter? Well, there's always the danger you're going to buy something that's been stolen or that's been abused, or you get it and you find out that it's locked by the app to some other owner and you're basically locked out of your scooters. It can be a minefield out there with used electric scooters. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are some really great deals on some really great scooters under $600 out there, and I hope I've given you all the tools you'll need to tell the good ones from the not so good ones. When buying anything, there are always trade-offs when it comes to saving money, and some of the trade-offs can be worth it. But when it comes to things like safety or having to push your scooter up a hill, it can end up being worth it to spend a little more and get a scooter that really works. But of course, the great thing about cheap scooters is that they're affordable. Some people even buy 2 so they can go ride with friends or with their family, or maybe keep one at their desk at work and one at home, or one to ride and one to keep freshly charged. Thanks so much for watching my video about how to buy and how not to buy a cheap electric scooter. I really appreciate you watching all the way to the end of the video. If you made it this far, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to me here at VMAX, because this isn't ESG. I'm not there anymore. But I will leave you with the same catchphrase today: ride safe and don't forget to wear a helmet.